Let's just give everyone a quick minute or two to hop on here. Okay, let's go ahead and get started. Welcome everyone to our first Story Studio University webinar. Super excited to be kicking off this series. We will have 4 of these throughout the rest of this year, and they'll continue on to next year, all covering a different category of interest. We wanted to kick it off with a category we're seeing a lot of success in. And I also have Chloe Dinsdale on the call, who's going to be walking you through some of those case studies. She's really been the leader and the face of this healthcare initiative that, again, over the last 18 months has just grown significantly. So before we dive into healthcare overall, I wanted to give a little background and some brief context for those of you who may be new and don't know who Story Studio is, and walk you through why you're here and what we're aiming to do. So we started the Story Studio, full service content marketing agency, out of the San Francisco Chronicle in 2015, and have since grown to support all you lovely folks, the HTV division, the newspaper division. We have a direct line of business as well as an affiliate model in all of their content marketing needs. The 3 things that continue, I think, to differentiate us and really has been the foundation of our business is how we go to market. It's a little bit different than everyone else. And again, I think it really helps us stand out and has really supported our growth over the last 6 years. The first being how we go about creating our content. So we sit down with our clients one-on-one, figure out exactly who they're trying to reach, what message they're trying to get out there, and really craft the story around that versus some of the more programmatic solutions where your clients are submitting bullets and it's a more of a general story. We really deep dive into the client's mission and really make sure their vision comes through in the content. We want them to be as excited about the story as obviously we are. The second, I think, key differentiator here is the guaranteed readership. So from the get-go, our clients know at minimum who is going to be reading the story from a target audience perspective, but they're also going to know the minimum number of readers. And we only count readers if they've been on the story for 30 seconds or more. So again, you're really getting that engaged reader on your message. And lastly is our analytics. They're fully transparent, and that's truly hard to find in the content marketing space. Reason being is, a lot of times all of these metrics are being pulled from different platforms, and we've built a real-time dashboard that cohesively brings in all of these analytics to really be able to tell the story, so to speak, on the success of your campaign. So you're able to see how many people have seen the story, how much time, what links were the most successful, how many video views, and pretty much anything that takes place on that page. We are fully transparent, which again is just when you're thinking about selling these, it's like giving the advertiser that much viewability into their success really helps them craft future marketing initiatives around some of these insights. So we've just found that it's proven to be invaluable. Next, you'll see here is, again, just a few of the healthcare brands we've worked with. As I said, over the last 18 months, this category has completely taken off. Chloe next is going to walk you through 3 different examples. And I just want to take a moment to say that each one there are 3 different goals. They have 3 different strategies. And what Chloe and her team have done so well is create these very comprehensive but custom programs to really align to each goal that these clients are trying to achieve. So I'll hand it over to her now, and let her walk you through. Again, if you have questions, feel free to add them to the chat and we will address them at the end of the presentation.
Thanks, Allie, for the introduction. Yes, it is I, Chloe. The rumors are true. I work on a lot of the healthcare content, though I really can't stand the sight of blood. But I'd love to share with you a little bit about the strategy, goals, and process of three clients very near and dear to the initiatives here and introduce a new product that you may not be familiar with. That product is called a health hub. This may have been a buzzword that you've heard. What I want to do is just give you a few quick buzzwords on what hubs are. They generally are a central aggregated location that houses a lot of different content that could be existing within a blog site for a client, or could be something that we have created or will create with the client around a lot of different ideas. The ideas don't necessarily have to be the same. We could absolutely have different ideas at play, as you'll see kind of playing in our video capture here. There's a lot of different content that lives within a hub. The idea, though, is that we are creating content to provide this aggregated resource for a reader over the course of time to better your life in the healthcare space. So, we're all about bringing that healthcare vision to life and creating a lifestyle environment for that content to live that oftentimes I say isn't so scary or sterile, especially after coming out of a worldwide pandemic, which is absolutely where this product grew from. We definitely innovated our product to present to our clients something new and interesting and definitely resourceful for our readers. Which is absolutely where Tufts MC started. So, Tufts, their goal with their hub was to definitely talk about awareness, so get their brand out there, get people encouraged and knowing kind of what their specialties are in terms of location or even subject matter. We've covered everything from bariatrics to orthopedics, even had a month celebrating women's health. We will get into men's health and lots of other topics over the course of time. We've been working with Tufts for over a year now. Since we have started, they have worked on branding into a new, actually, brand development and idea. So we've taken their brand from Tufts MC into Tufts Medicine. So all along the way, really creating that awareness for their community and getting those kinds of content out there to really lift up the community and support them with healthcare content that matters, especially during a time when it's, this return to healthcare is a very important notion, being that we've stayed away from doctors and each other over the course of time. So definitely creating an environment that's holistic with lots of different interactive modules to play on that lifestyle content as well as teach readers something. So you heard me say interactive module. Part of the strategy of these hubs is to create an anatomy and atmosphere that not only houses this robust content around a lot of different healthcare matters, but to also play a little bit with the educational side of readership, meaning the entertainment factor and the educational factor at play. So here you'll see in this screenshot few different things that we've created for this brand specifically in terms of interactive modules is a map. So the map location, when clicked on, will show you a lot of different locations that the Tufts Medicine network covers in the area of Boston, which is where this is kind of born out of. You can toggle through that map and close out and really interact with these locations to understand where they are, the contact information, and also how it applies to maybe your health journey. We also have a medical quiz here for this specific topic of medical myths. So when you play this medical myths quiz builder, you kind of test your own knowledge about things like supplements or sunscreen or drinking a bottle of water a day. The other thing that you'll see at play, both in this hub and other hubs in terms of anatomy, is a blog board and most of the time video content at play. So you'll definitely see a lot of the content that may or may not have that tie in. In this specific hub, we have a medical myths sort of theme, which we're absolutely addressing a lot of different ideas here. So creating a very renowned aggregated experience for the reader and giving them a lot of useful information at their fingertips. And all the while, kind of with that entertainment factor and learning factor as well, clicking through to these interactive features and, in fact, call to action features too, as you see us scrolling into how to actually request an appointment and book an appointment. Being that we're not quite out of the pandemic yet, we do have a lot of safety measures that are definitely part of the hubs as well, and something that we convey to readers. Tufts also did a timeline at the bottom of their story too, just as an ode to their own history that is less, reader serving, but interesting all the while. And we do end the hub with a little bit of an ode to the healthcare heroes that we definitely celebrate in this day and age. Ellie, anything to add about the Tufts MC experience, being that they're our first and continually running sort of hub experience?
What Chloe developed was basically tied to essentially an editorial calendar. So each month has a different theme. So whether it's pregnancy, whether it's heart health, and each month this hub essentially gets a refresh. And we're able to use a lot of the assets that they're creating in house and really blend them with custom content. So it ends up making a really robust experience for the reader. And, as Chloe mentioned, not a lot of people go to these medical facilities looking for lifestyle information, right? They're going to book an appointment or learn about a doctor, where these hubs have really been an outlet for that real life information, where people can kind of source on a daily basis. And it's really put WCBB, in a position to be an authority in the space, right? Because this hangs exactly off their header. And Tufts found having that notoriety with WCBB super important.
Yeah, absolutely. And the goals of awareness and branding absolutely kind of are taken into effect here with lots of different themes each time. Strategy changes each time so that we have a lot of coverage of a lot of different departments. We do change out the content. So we change up the quizzes, we do change up some of the interactive features. We do interviews for content as well. So we're very much involved with the research and process behind the messaging. As far as the process goes, another part that makes these hubs really successful and also creates a really nice seamless partnership between the station, the newspaper, the client, and us as an agency, a marketing agency. The process really does involve everybody from all sides of the team. So we're talking a lot, weekly calls with the client, really understanding and creating those relationships, and creating a level of involvement from all sides of the team where we take on a lot of the heavy lifting in terms of the research and development and design. But the team over at Tufts is very much involved in the direction. We do share reporting and we snowball topics from one to the next. We understand healthcare landscape to the point of, each month that comes about, the awareness around specific types of illness or injury, summer being a season of trauma. We're absolutely having those conversations, and it's created a really nice learning experience and relationship that really drives the success that we see even in the readership. It's like almost that the brand of medicine is really having a conversation with their patients through this kind of portal. So really interesting to see that reporting success there too. This is going to be a little bit of a smaller client. Harvard Pilgrim Healthcare is actually a Connecticut brand. They are kind of a network representing the Northeast. Their goal a little bit more was around education and reach, being that they do have kind of a smaller market, not as well known nationally for sure, and we wanted to really saturate the market in which they're in and really get out information around what they offer, in this case, which is telehealth. So what we did is, created a successful partnership from the beginning. So what we did is created a story with them specifically just talking about telehealth and its importance. And because of the success about that, it brought actually a hub straight to the forefront. The client really liked what we were doing in terms of hubs. They really liked the knowledge backing that we had and that we understood our readers and how they like to engage with content. We are seeing a lot of great engagement numbers on the content as well, about twofold from the editorial experience. So, definitely seeing a lot of not only the readership quality, but the interaction and action taken by a reader as well. So, with that goal in mind of reach and education, the strategy over here a little bit different. We wanted to fully saturate the market in less time. And what we did was really create an environment in which these readers could interact with upcoming virtual wellness courses. A lot of the content within the blog board that we mentioned has information that is relevant in this day and age and this time. So the environment of it really served well for the course of the promotion. The process for Harvard Pilgrim was very much research driven, and we really worked with the client on decision trees. So, meaning how do we choose telehealth? What does that process look like? We actually went through the process of signing up just to feel what it's like from the reader side and represent what that's like. Another thing Harvard Pilgrim really wanted to showcase is that they very much are a lifestyle brand. So you'll see a Zumba video playing. They definitely represent a lot of different kinds of people, whether they have chronic illness or not. So we really wanted to appeal to a lot of different people. And that's where that lifestyle play comes in, and it's really important for people. Maybe they aren't dealing with a medical condition and don't need healthcare right now, but this is an environment that addresses it in such a way that the action of it is a little more organic than I need something now. So we see this a really successful partnership that actually grew into another story with this client specifically. And we're really happy and proud of this partnership. And that success of building from one thing to the next is really something that we pride ourselves on and really want to continue to grow, whether it be from hubs to stories or stories to hubs. I think there's definitely a lot of ideas that we can continue to play with when it comes to hubs and stories.
You mentioned something which really stuck with me. So you said this started with one story. How have you helped them sort of make the jump and see the importance of these hubs from that? And then the second is, between these two, between Tufts and Harvard Pilgrim, I know both of them had, I guess I would say, a different participation level, where I think Tufts was a little bit more hands off in terms of the content creation, and Harvard Pilgrim provided a little bit more of their own asset. So, how do you manage that conversation? I know working with clients sometimes and aggregating all of these assets for this can seem a little bit overwhelming. And so how have you been able to ease sort of that conversation with both, the client and, even just the account management team and so on and so forth?
Those are really great questions and definitely something that I hear from the sales side a lot. And I think to address the first one in terms of Harvard Pilgrim really making that plunge and taking that great step from having done one story into a hub is the fact that we did approach it with so much research and we believe in the product that we have and how it will benefit their readership and also their brand. So we definitely had a lot of that conversation with Harvard Pilgrim and we got on several calls and made ourselves available for that conversation. And we're educated not only on the product, but definitely within healthcare too, which I think at some level impressed the client. And I'd say Harvard Pilgrim did have a little bit more involvement when it came to the educational side that we needed to learn about their business. I mentioned that we did sign up for telehealth. We did go through that process just to understand exactly what it would take a reader to make a decision about. And we went through that decision tree with Harvard Pilgrim. So, a lot of different departments, though, will tell us that their bandwidth actually doesn't allow for a lot of participation on their end, whether we do weekly calls or not. Healthcare is a very, very busy field. And even in marketing, it's very hard to make sure that we're touching base and seeing these through every month or every season or quarter that we're posting these kinds of things. So, what our team does is take on the heavy lift in terms of gathering content, researching ideas and content when it comes time to brainstorm maybe for phase two or phase three. Because along the course of promotion, these will last anywhere between 6 months to a year. We can absolutely shorten that time span if it's more specific to, maybe an event or an idea. But we definitely take the heavy lifting off of the client in that sense. And we do all of the design wireframes and mock-ups in a way that's very easy to integrate and, cooperate with edits and communicate back and forth on what's working and what's not. And we're very collaborative in that sense, but we do make sure to take that, um, idea off the client in terms of them having to provide everything or create files. We definitely kind of spearhead that creatively on our end. So good questions in terms of how do you get the jump and clear that gap, and then also how do we manage that on our end and see it through successfully, whether there's a team on the other end or not.
Yeah. No, I think it's just such an important, point to make here because these do, I think at first glance potentially seem overwhelming for the client. But, what Chloe has developed is really, as she said, a wireframe and more so a framework to really make these turnkey for both parties, regardless of the bandwidth that they have in house. We're able to work around all of those factors.
Completely. And that brings us into even, our third and definitely not, the final health hub. It's definitely been one of the more recent ones, but we have published somewhere around 12 health hubs now, everywhere from Providence networks into children's health. There's a lot of different brands that we get, even surgical care affiliates. We're starting to see kind of the healthcare at work for them too. UPMC, though, is a major network out of Pittsburgh. So we partner with WTAE on this project. We take a lot of research and learnings that we've learned across the course of some of the health hubs that we've done, and really roll them into the next strategy and continue to kind of pack up that resource that we have and present it to the clients in order to kind of keep that educated sale flow process moving. In terms of the hubs specifically, I think UPMC was drawn to this from the very beginning. They have a lot of great content that was already existing that they wanted to get new eyeballs on. So the goal was definitely content. So along with that, we created some stories to pair with the UPMC Health Hub. So we create new stories every month, ranging everything from trauma to skin cancer prevention, even to poison control as kids are home for the summer. We also work cross divisionally with the HTV Digital Studios team. So, working in that storytelling by way of video as well. So, really, kind of a lot of different details at play here. As I mentioned, for Tufts and Harvard Pilgrim, there's definitely an anatomy of hubs that allows for not only content, but also interactive features. So, for UPMC specifically, the features that we've included here is a Did You Know module, so a little bit of a quiz concept. Takes shape in a little bit of a different format than you've seen prior. So, each kind of client and each design or each hub is definitely its own unique character. What we did here for UPMC as well is also created an editorial calendar. So you can kind of look ahead as to what content will be produced in the months to come. So even this calendar, it flips to August if the campaign is live now, and so you can kind of see a lot of the different awareness months. We'll be doing a lot of content around caregiving, definitely a lot as we get into September and October around primary care, really covering the gamut of different topics here to keep that content goal top of mind. UPMC is also a leader in healthcare networks too, so they wanted to have a hub and this presence online, especially in conjunction with WTAE, to be a leader on the news networks in terms of healthcare. So, a really great partnership that we've worked out here. Again, with process, very collaborative with the teams. We do have bi-weekly meetings, so we're able to create that relationship, that partnership, and that ongoing conversation that just continues to power and fuel these hubs with resource and reader information, just to continue to build awareness, to gain readership, and also just to stay as that thought leader in the arena. Strategy, obviously, here applying a lot of different knowledge and success tactics across the board, but we're learning a lot through UPMC too that is helpful in us creating new, unique, and bespoke experiences and interactive activity that's really powering that interaction and engagement. The success that we see here, obviously lots of content. We do drive promotion to the stories as well as the hub, which is a very important way to kind of get this cross promotional activity. Each of the stories link to the hub, and the hub links to all the stories. So, really great readership there. We do post this content within native ad units, of course, throughout our networks at Hearst and beyond. So a lot of promotion and a lot of even organic reach and activity here. I love these hubs because of the exposure of the lots of different departments. We get to talk to a lot of great professionals who get to see and speak to the content. All of these professionals are impressed by the initiative, and it's great to get this kind of feedback and be able to work alongside these healthcare professionals just for our own research and knowledge too, and bettering our products and all the content that comes along with that. And the fact that they see this of value in their community and the readership that really becomes the patients and that sort of thing has been a real clue into how it works even on the internal side of things. Um, so very exciting initiative for UPMC. We're rolling right into phase 2 and 3. So interviews are underway, and we're taking on all of that interaction and reporting back to the client, their success metrics and building off of that. And as Ellie mentioned in the very beginning, content is so important to know exactly kind of what to target and who to target next. So the insights that we're able to share kind of with the communities on each of these markets, on each of these networks, and even each of these specialty divisions is, who's looking at this content, where are they spending the most time, what are they wanting to click out more to and learn more about. And just learning where they're spending time on the hub page itself and interacting with these features. Really great insights that we share with the client. Again, very transparent. And we come at it with a level of excitement as well because we're energized by the type of activity that we're seeing. I think UPMC, Harvard Pilgrim, and Tufts are great examples to share and to have in the arsenal of examples that you can send out to your clients. As I mentioned before, we have a lot of different examples, both with hubs and with custom stories as well, that tell a compelling story kind of in its own framework. Again, can link out to hubs and other initiatives and things of that nature. But would love to have this opportunity more and to learn more and continue to snowball these ideas into more hubs and continue to kind of attack this atmosphere.
I have a couple questions. So, one, these are clearly very involved. Typically for a story, the turnaround time's in that 2 to 3 week range. How do you schedule a quick turnaround, but also develop, the cadence in which, you're having a publishing schedule? So, how does that process take place?
Yeah, that's a great question. There's definitely a brainstorm kind of kickoff call, much like we have for creative strategy calls, in which we kind of go over the anatomy of the hub and what's kind of available. And we talk a lot about where the client really wants to see this go and what kind of topics there needs to be. We come prepared to the calls with a little bit of research of our own in terms of the seasonality, maybe awareness month that we're in or approaching. Also, what we found on their blog pages to be interesting or important, even social media, and kind of do a little bit of a presentation as well in terms of what we know readership is looking for or what's kind of been working in other, again, strategies and goals and processes across different stations and markets. So we take that knowledge and absolutely present it and give the client a chance to, get back to us with feedback. The process for, a classic story studio is anywhere between 3 and 4 weeks. We extend maybe an extra 2 weeks for that design and development, really with the time in the middle being the edits. So we'll work through the wireframing process with the client to make sure that what we're building is exactly what they're looking for. And we'll have, a few rounds of revisions for that. So it really takes just a couple extra weeks to get kind of things lifted up off the ground. But one thing that we'll do that's really helpful is, I mentioned earlier, taking that heavy lift off the client to really put together the research and drive the initiatives, but also, work in conjunction with the client. But as far as assets go, we come up with the ideation around some of these interactive modules and concepts for the quiz that we send over alongside, the wireframes so that they can kind of choose the concept and choose kind of how we've laid things out and the reasons as to why. And the weekly calls kind of help us present that information and develop it further. But on that note as well, if assets aren't available for what we're looking to produce, our team will source and produce that all on our end as well. So, no photos, no problem is what we always say.
Oh, that's so great. So just to clarify for some of the folks on the phone that might not know what a wireframe is, it's essentially a really scaled back version of this hub. And I think it really allows Chloe and her team to have, a very successful conversation with the client in terms of what assets would be needed. And I think it really kicks off the dialogue where, the client can say, hey, we actually do have photos, of X, Y, and Z. And then Chloe and her team know, immediately almost, what they're going to have to backfill. So I think it ends up being a pretty seamless execution, across the board.
Oh, absolutely. And that carries us really into kind of how we have to start these conversations with healthcare brands and how we get in the door. I think from, our perspective on the creative end and from our experience, we absolutely kind of abide by these rules. We do the research and education, so understanding that that internet is the best place to turn to for information, whether it be specific to your client or even the environment in which we're living as well. So really kind of cluing in on those awareness type kinds of models. The next thing we kind of focus on is relevancy. So, where is that audience? How do we utilize that audience? How do we use Hearst to utilize that audience? And creating the targeting profile for that specific initiative while also keeping the messaging really relevant on a large level. Same goes for tone. When we're kind of conversing with these healthcare brands, we really want to put ourselves as the reader and, they are the thought leaders, and what do we find interesting about what they present as a brand, and how can we bring that interest to a larger level with our readership? So that tone is really important to have for that conversation and to understand, where we're headed with this sort of initiative. The other thing that we really encourage, of course, is to definitely take a look at visual assets and the messaging used. How does that messaging really speak to these kinds of initiatives? And how do their assets really speak to some of these examples and things that you'll be able to kind of browse through and ultimately share with the client? Definitely having that relevancy in terms of examples as well can absolutely help them picture, what their hub could look like or their custom story by kind of referring to some of the other examples, maybe in different industries or different markets, to kind of use as a good stepping stone. So these kinds of resources we'll absolutely provide to you and we'll get to in the next couple of slides. But this is a great way to kind of get that foot in the door and start thinking about the environment and the assets and the bandwidth and ultimately the wishes and goals of your clients and how we can really fill that need with what we've kind of presented today. Another thing that we think is really great that you are absolutely welcome to share with clients, from a white labeled perspective, is the transparent reporting that we do mention. I think a lot of our kind of turnkey ideas as to what keeps us different from a lot of other marketing and content agencies, is apparent in the work that we do, and the kind of relationship that we have with clients and our internal, reps and stations. But this reporting element is a huge element as well, and that transparency and the ability to look at all of the messaging and the reporting of such and success of such. It is real time, which is amazing. So each and every day you can kind of check back in, and it provides really valuable insights on that messaging and creative that's been used. So definitely something that we think is a great visual on top of these stories to present to the client and to get to know for some of these initiatives.
Yeah, and just to add to that, I think with these hubs, reporting is even more apparent and important because, we are looking at content over a year. So, for example, with Tufts, we're comparing 12 different categories, and so what this reporting really allows for is a full look at what topics, what categories, what buzzwords, what things really resonated with the reader, because it really helps Tufts now think about the future year. Maybe they want to heavy up on the pregnancy element or heart health. So again, those insights become completely just invaluable for future marketing initiatives.
The really cool thing too about Story Studio is that we've really grown to cover a lot of different industries. So, healthcare being a major one, and there's lots of us who have, touch points on this, but I'll kind of let Ali expand on some of the important industries that we cover and some of the faces that you may encounter when it comes to these categories.
So you'll see just over the course of the next couple weeks, we'll roll out a few more of these. I think we have retail coming up, which is exciting, just going into the holidays. But yeah, as Chloe said, we've really stacked this team, based on the needs of the market. So that's everything from, the standard kind of custom story to, a creative team that now handles a lot of the high impacts that you guys are selling. So really, while the foundation of our mission has remained the same, our capabilities have expanded creatively, like I said earlier, just from reach. And you have a very, very solid team to help you with any of those needs. And, we're always here to answer questions. We have an alias that you can reach out to for proposals. Obviously pricing these things is a little bit different from, division to division. So again, happy to help you in those sales efforts. Chloe and this team are amazing on calls with clients to kind of help talk through some of the details and some of those more intricate conversations around timelines, assets, so on and so forth. And, over the course of the last, I would say 12 months, we've been building out a resource center, which you'll also have access to. And what we'll do after this call is send a follow-up, which will include a recording of this. It'll include the deck, but it'll also include all of these live links that you'll now have at your fingertips to hopefully help your selling. And now I don't know, Chloe, if you had anything else to add. Otherwise, we will take a pause and answer any questions you may have. I know a lot of you have put some in the chat box, so we can go from there.